after being hunted down and trapped inside a painting like secret treasure. Luo Feng and Emperor Qing were forced to break free, as the raiders' greed drove them to abandon all rules and kill for treasure. Luo Feng and Emperor Qing were suddenly ambushed by 5 middle-stage Divine Emperor experts from the Deceit Workshop, who immediately launched a coordinated domain attack. One created a vast painting that sealed the battlefield. Another summoned poisonous black rain capable of corroding almost anything, while a third spread freezing white mist that drastically lowered the temperature. The 3 domains overlapped perfectly, trapping Luo Feng and Emperor Qing inside a deadly environment. Luo Feng remained completely calm, enlarged his body into a towering giant covered in blood-red scales, and unleashed his endless blood sea. He then activated the Life and Death Tribulation map, a powerful secret treasure array he had recently purchased with 300,000 primordial crystals borrowed from Emperor Qing. Designed to enhance his undying blood sea body, the array dramatically amplified the blood sea's power. The blood sea expanded across hundreds of millions of kilometers, forming the domain Blood Sea Heaven and Earth, which transformed the entire battlefield into a crimson world filled with endless blood waves below and blood mist above. Luo Feng's overwhelming vitality completely crushed the enemy domains, tearing apart the giant painting, exhausting the poisonous black rain through superior regenerative power, and swallowing the freezing mist until all 3 techniques collapsed. Realizing that Luo Feng's domain strength far exceeded theirs, the 5 enemies concluded that defeating him through domain techniques alone would be impossible. Nevertheless, they refused to retreat and decided to eliminate Emperor Qing first, believing him to be the weaker target. A white-robed expert attacked Emperor Qing with a powerful radiance technique, forcing Emperor Qing to compress his sword array to its smallest size and fight defensively with all his strength. Luo Feng immediately intercepted the attack, drawing all 5 enemies toward himself. One cold-hearted enemy transformed into black mud that bypassed Luo Feng's scales and attempted to corrode his body from within. This black mud was far more dangerous than the previous poisonous rain, possessing terrifying penetration and toxicity. However, Luo Feng's body had been forged from the blood-colored scale and undying heart inside Star Tower, making it virtually indestructible. The black mud continuously consumed its own power while barely managing to penetrate Luo Feng's immortal body. At the same time, the freezing mist condensed into a gigantic 2-headed, 8-armed ice giant comparable in size to Luo Feng. The monster charged forward and attacked with all 8 arms simultaneously. Wearing his secret treasure gloves, Luo Feng ignored the incoming attacks and simply threw both fists straight ahead with overwhelming force. His punch shattered 4 of the giant's arms, blasted a massive hole through its chest, and sent it flying backward. The 5 Deceit Workshop experts were shocked because Luo Feng possessed not only extraordinary domain abilities but also terrifying close-range combat strength, making him formidable in every aspect. Recognizing that they could not defeat him individually, the enemies decided to surround him. The black mud continued invading his body while the ice giant rapidly regenerated and attacked again. Blue ribbons descended from every direction, wrapping around Luo Feng and restricting his movements, while an enormous blood serpent coiled tightly around his waist and leg with immense force. Even Luo Feng felt pain as the serpent squeezed him. Cracks appeared on his blood-colored scales, yet they regenerated almost instantly. Although 4 powerful enemies attacked him simultaneously, his immortal body continued healing without pause. Watching from afar while fighting another opponent, Emperor Qing became concerned that Luo Feng was facing 4 experts alone. However, he remained relatively calm because both he and Luo Feng were cultivators from the source world, meaning death would only destroy their current bodies while their avatars would survive. Bound by the ribbons and serpent, Luo Feng suddenly burst into laughter, revealing that his enemies had completely misunderstood his cultivation technique. He explained that his undying blood sea body meant the endless blood sea itself was his true body, while the towering humanoid form contained only 20% of his total energy reserves. The remaining 80% existed within the blood sea. As soon as he finished speaking, his giant body dissolved into countless blood waves that merged seamlessly into the endless blood sea. The 4 attackers were left stunned because the target they had spent so much effort restraining had simply disappeared. They suddenly realized that defeating Luo Feng's physical body accomplished nothing because he could freely transform between his humanoid form and the blood sea itself. making him truly immortal. Taking advantage of their confusion, Luo Feng activated the first tribulation of the life and death tribulation map, the life and death prison. Rather than trying to imprison all 4 attackers at once, he wisely chose to isolate only the Black Mud expert. Inside the core of the Blood Sea, known as the Blood Sea Eye, a separate prison space formed instantly around the enemy. Chains created from the endless cycle of life and death bound him tightly while the prison continuously eroded his body and life force. Luo Feng deliberately chose this strategy because imprisoning multiple enemies at once would have weakened the prison enough for them to escape. Whereas trapping a single opponent gave him complete confidence. The trapped enemy immediately sensed the danger and activated his most valuable life-saving treasure. His body became ethereal, allowing him to break through the prison walls and several layers of the Blood Sea Eye. However, after piercing 3 protective membranes, the treasure finally exhausted its power before reaching the outside world. He realized too late that he should have purchased more escape treasures before joining the mission. Believing that traveling with 4 companions would be enough to guarantee his safety, Luo Feng quickly reappeared inside the prison, smiling as he informed the trapped enemy that there was no longer any possibility of escape. The chains once again restrained him while the power of life and death relentlessly consumed his remaining energy. As his strength rapidly declined, the trapped expert desperately begged Luo Feng to spare his life, offering all of his treasures in exchange for mercy. Luo Feng calmly rejected the offer, pointing out that killing him would naturally allow him to claim every treasure anyway. The enemy then threatened Luo Feng by saying that many powerful experts within the Deceit Workshop were his friends and that killing him would create countless enemies. Luo Feng dismissed the threat, sarcastically asking whether only the Deceit Workshop was allowed to kill others while no one else could retaliate. Meanwhile, outside the Blood Sea, the remaining 4 experts desperately searched for the Blood Sea Eye but could not locate its hidden position. Their imprisoned companion transmitted frantic pleas for rescue, revealing that even his life-saving treasure had failed to free him. Unable to save their companion, the remaining experts attempted psychological warfare. They warned Luo Feng that he had only recently arrived in Yulan City and that killing Kumo would provoke revenge from both his master and the entire Deceit Workshop. Luo Feng answered with fearless laughter. As a cultivator from the Source World, he had never been afraid of making powerful enemies. He openly challenged the entire Deceit Workshop, declaring that if they wanted revenge, they were welcome to come after him. In the end, he intended to find out who would truly fear whom, showing absolute confidence in his own strength and immortal Blood Sea body. After trapping Kumo inside the endless Blood Sea, Luo Feng and Emperor Qing forced the remaining 4 members of Deceit Workshop into a difficult position. Kumo urgently contacted them, revealing that Luo Feng had already refined 20% of his body and that he could not survive much longer. He desperately urged them to negotiate, beg for mercy, or use any possible method to rescue him, even promising each of them 10 million primordial crystals if they succeeded. The 4 divine emperors were shocked because cultivators, unlike innate primordial lives, had no true life core, meaning once their bodies and souls were completely destroyed, death was final. They also realized that if Kumo fell, Luo Feng might imprison and eliminate them one after another. Despite this concern, none of them truly valued friendship over survival. After briefly discussing the situation, they agreed that rescuing Kumo inside the endless Blood Sea was impossible. They informed him they would notify his master, Yu Yang, before abandoning him and escaping together. The 4 joined forces, broke through the endless Blood Sea, and fled at full speed. Luo Feng chose not to pursue them, understanding that completely stopping 4 mid-stage divine emperors from escaping would be extremely difficult. Emperor Qing laughed, pleased that only 2 Source World cultivators had defeated 5 opponents, killed 1, and forced the remaining 4 to flee in humiliation. Emperor Qing then asked whether Luo Feng could truly kill the imprisoned Kumo. Luo Feng calmly replied that it would only take a little more time. Emperor Qing believed this was the correct decision because enemies who had intended to kill them deserved no mercy. And a dead mid-stage divine emperor would likely possess treasures worth even more than the rewards from their hunting expedition. Since there was also a possibility that the escaped enemies would return with reinforcements. Luo Feng and Emperor Qing immediately boarded their flying boat and left the battlefield while Luo Feng continued refining Kumo within his internal world. Inside Luo Feng's undying Blood Sea body, Kumo remained trapped inside a prison formed by an extremely powerful secret treasure array. Endless life and death chains continuously wrapped around his body, suppressing, eroding, and refining every part of him. Luo Feng carefully observed Kumo with the biomimetic eye of destruction and discovered that Kumo's body was entirely composed of rule-based poisonous black mud. Normally, even if his body were blasted apart, it would simply separate into countless poisonous fragments before reforming again with almost no loss. During the earlier battle, Kumo had confidently rushed directly into close combat, believing his poisonous body could infect and corrode Luo Feng. However, Luo Feng's physical body proved vastly superior, and his endless blood sea completely surrounded every fragment of poisonous black mud, preventing even the smallest piece from escaping. With no path to freedom, Kumo could only endure as the life and death array steadily refined his poisonous body. Watching his companions abandon him, Kumo quickly understood that only his master had ever truly cared about him. The others merely shared the same organization and had no intention of risking their own lives. He admitted that the life and death array was far more terrifying than anything he had experienced before. His famous deceitful poison body had allowed him to fight low-level primordial lives directly and overwhelm countless powerful enemies. Yet it was completely powerless against Luo Feng's array. As the refinement continued, Kumo's body gradually dissolved into shapeless black mud while only his head retained a human appearance. Facing Luo Feng, Kumo openly admitted that he still wished to live. Luo Feng questioned why, if he valued his life so much, he had refused the offer of primordial crystals and insisted on attacking. Luo Feng reminded him that the moment he chose violence, he had already accepted the possibility of death. Kumo did not argue. Instead, he calmly accepted Luo Feng's words and acknowledged that after spending his entire life killing and plundering others, it was only natural that someone would eventually kill him as well. As the refinement neared its end, Kumo reflected upon his entire cultivation journey. He had been born in a world where the great Tao itself was poisonous. Every cultivator there constantly faced the great Tao death tribulation, and the only way to survive was to continuously break through to higher realms before each catastrophe arrived. Throughout countless years, Kumo traveled across more than 300 worlds, personally witnessed the destruction of 19 worlds, and even caused the destruction of 3 worlds himself. He ascended 3 separate times before finally reaching the godly king level, mastering part of the corrupted Great Tao and escaping the Great Tao death tribulation forever. Later, after arriving in Yulan City, he discovered that the inheritance of Deceit Workshop perfectly matched his poisonous cultivation path and successfully cultivated the deceitful poison body into one of his greatest strengths. However, as death approached, Kumo finally realized the true cost of his survival. Endless years of struggling against the Great Tao death tribulation had gradually transformed him. Killing, robbing, and destroying had become so natural that he no longer questioned them. Those habits had become engraved into his soul itself. He understood that although Luo Feng would physically kill him, the real cause of his fate was the cruel Great Tao that had shaped his entire existence. When only a tiny fragment of black mud remained, Kumo attempted to contact his companions one final time but failed because the communication range within the 9 Rivers sacred realm was too limited. He then thought only of his master, Yu Yang, whose talent had always exceeded his own and whose guidance had enabled him to survive until today. Kumo quietly left one final message, asking his master not to seek revenge. In his own eyes, he had not died because another cultivator defeated him, but because he had never truly escaped the influence of the Great Tao death tribulation. The final fragment of black mud was completely refined away, and Kumo disappeared forever. Only his secret treasures remained behind. Luo Feng collected everything, including the illusion realm maze storage artifact and Kumo's deceitful secret treasures. Inside the storage treasure were enormous quantities of poisonous primordial life materials, cultivation resources, and countless spoils obtained from victims Kumo had robbed over the years. Luo Feng estimated that the remaining treasures alone were worth roughly 80 million primordial crystals. He noted that most of Kumo's lifetime wealth had already been spent on cultivation resources, inheritances, and powerful treasures, so what remained represented only the items he regularly carried. Even so, Luo Feng considered the harvest extremely valuable. Although he respected how difficult Kumo's cultivation journey had been, He believed that anyone who tried to kill him deserved no mercy. Kumo thus became the very first divine emperor Luo Feng had personally killed. The return trip to Yulan City was peaceful, with no further ambushes from plundering forces. While flying back, Emperor Qing told Luo Feng that the news of Kumo's death would quickly spread throughout the city. Until now, Luo Feng had deliberately concealed his true strength, leading many cultivators to believe he was merely an early-stage divine emperor. After this battle, however, everyone would know that he had single-handedly confronted 4 mid-stage divine emperors while successfully killing Kumo, proving himself to be one of the strongest mid-stage divine emperors in Yulan City. Emperor Qing estimated that Luo Feng's strength now ranked among the city's top 2,000 experts. Such fame would inevitably attract both respect and trouble. Emperor Qing also reminded him that Kumo's master, Yu Yang, was far more dangerous than Kumo himself. Luo Feng remained completely unconcerned, smiling as he explained that the body currently living in the Nine Rivers sacred realm was only an avatar. If anyone truly had reason to worry about future conflict, it was Yu Yang rather than him. With that, the flying boat entered Yulan City and headed directly toward Primordial Hall. Luo Feng and Emperor Qing sold all the corpses of the primordial lives they had hunted, including the valuable flame demon corpse, earning a total of 19.5 million primordial crystals. Following their agreed 70-30 split, Luo Feng received 13.65 million while Emperor Qing took 5.85 million. Luo Feng also repaid the 300.000 primordial crystals he had borrowed to purchase the array map secret treasure. Instead of hastily selling the spoils taken from Kumo, Luo Feng decided to spend several more days finding buyers who specialized in poisons and rare materials, ensuring he received a much better price than simply selling everything to the Primordial Hall. Before leaving, Emperor Qing warned him to stay cautious of Kumo's master, Yu Yang, and the powerful Deceit Workshop. Meanwhile, news of Kumo's death quickly reached the Deceit Workshop, one of the 3 notorious organizations in Yulan City that survived through robbery and extortion. Elder Tianhe, one of its 8 deputy workshop masters and a late-stage divine emperor, reviewed the battle report and learned that Luo Feng had killed Kumo. Although he had little concern for Kumo's death, he viewed the incident as an opportunity to strengthen the workshop's authority. Confident in his own strength and wealth, Tianhe ordered one of his subordinates to demand 50 million primordial crystals from Luo Feng as compensation. He even hoped Luo Feng would refuse, believing a public confrontation would reinforce the Deceit Workshop's reputation and deterrence throughout the city. At the same time, Kumo's master, Yu Yang, also received the complete report. Unlike Tianhe, Yu Yang reacted calmly, having climbed from the lowest ranks alongside Kumo. He understood that choosing the path of robbery meant accepting the risk of dying in battle. Rather than seeking revenge, Yu Yang reflected on their shared goal of escaping the braided cage. Inspired by Senior Jin's promise to revive their fallen comrades after they escaped, Yu Yang remained determined to continue cultivating toward the half-primordial level instead of wasting time on personal vengeance. He accepted Kumo's death as the natural consequence of his chosen path and believed Kumo himself would not have wanted revenge. Later, while Luo Feng was still visiting merchants across Yulan City to sell Kumo's spoils at favorable prices, he was confronted by Chu Yike, a mid-stage divine emperor from the Deceit Workshop. Acting on Elder Tianhe's orders, Chu Yike informed Luo Feng that although Kumo had attacked him first, the workshop was willing to forgive the matter if Luo Feng paid 50 million primordial crystals within 3 days. He warned that refusing the payment would bring consequences Luo Feng would regret. Luo Feng immediately laughed at the absurd demand, pointing out that he had merely defended himself after being targeted for robbery and murder. He firmly rejected the extortion, declaring that he would not pay even a single primordial crystal and told Chu Yike to inform Elder Tianhe that whatever methods the Deceit Workshop intended to use, they could bring them on. Impressed by Luo Feng's fearless response, Chu Yike simply smiled, praised his courage, and departed to report back. Luo Feng watched the golden-armored Chu Yike leave and clearly sensed the man's undisguised hostility. Chu Yike believed Luo Feng's future in Yulan City would become miserable after refusing to submit to Deceit Workshop. Luo Feng found the organization's behavior absurd. They had ambushed outsiders, failed to kill them, and then demanded compensation from the victims. Unwilling to bow to such intimidation, he ignored the threat from Deputy Workshop Master Elder Tian He and calmly continued visiting other merchants. Meanwhile, Luo Feng's avatar gathered Emperor Cheng, Emperor Ming, and Di Fu in the cave mansion to explain the situation. He revealed that Elder Tian He had demanded 50 million primordial crystals as compensation and wanted the previous ambush to be forgotten. Luo Feng had rejected the demand outright. Emperor Qing explained the full incident to the others, while returning from a hunt. He and Luo Feng had been ambushed by 5 mid-stage Divine Emperor Enlightened experts from Deceit Workshop. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Luo Feng displayed astonishing combat strength by killing Kumo, one of the attackers, causing the remaining 4 enemies to retreat in fear. Emperor Ming and Di Fu were shocked because a mid-stage Divine Emperor Enlightened cultivator was comparable to a late-stage Divine Emperor bloodline expert, only one step away from the half-primordial level. The fact that Luo Feng could defeat such an opponent in a 2 versus 5 battle far exceeded their expectations. Luo Feng warned Emperor Ming and Di Fu that although he and Emperor Qing could protect themselves, the 2 of them were much weaker and would likely become Deceit Workshop's targets. Emperor Qing agreed, explaining that Yulan City's laws were extremely strict, preventing powerful organizations from openly attacking residents inside the city. However, they often relied on covert methods to retaliate against weaker individuals. Emperor Ming said he had remained in seclusion and rarely went outside, while Di Fu joked that the avatars he used for work were poor anyway. Even so, everyone understood that Deceit Workshop's revenge would arrive quickly. Emperor Qing advised suspending all hunting expeditions until the situation stabilized, and Luo Feng readily agreed. Emperor Qing wanted time to consolidate his newly achieved mid-stage Divine Emperor cultivation, while Luo Feng planned to devote himself to studying the large quantity of treasures he had acquired. Only 2 days later, Deceit Workshop struck exactly as expected. Di Fu was dismissed from his position at the 9-ringed World Tower, losing the valuable job he had worked hard to obtain. On his journey home, one of his external avatars was silently assassinated through a mysterious attack involving the power of causality, leaving no trace of the killer. Fortunately, the avatar inside Emperor Qing's cave mansion survived because the 9 Rivers Sacred Realm greatly suppressed causal techniques and the cave's formations further isolated them. Although Di Fu laughed the incident off, saying it was merely a low-level job and that he could now focus on cultivation, Luo Feng knew how important that position had been to him. The 4 of them had even celebrated when Di Fu first secured the job. Feeling personally responsible, Luo Feng promised that before long he would obtain an even better opportunity for Di Fu. His hatred toward Elder Tian He and Deceit Workshop grew even stronger. Realizing that remaining in Yulan City served little purpose for the moment, Luo Feng quietly disguised both his appearance and aura with his formless and intangible technique before boarding an official flying boat. After reaching the Holy Mountain, he used the infinite primordial space transmission array to return to the land of origin. Arriving back at Huyang City's City Lord Mansion, Luo Feng observed the enormous palm world supporting the entire city. This innate secret treasure, originally believed by primogenitor Yan Feng to have evolved from the claw of a high-level primordial life form after countless years within a world-level primordial life, possessed extraordinary life characteristics. Its value was nearly equal to the undying heart. Yet it was far more difficult to master because it combined the mysteries of life with world destruction, space, matter, and numerous other Tao paths. In comparison, the undying heart perfectly matched Luo Feng's cultivation of life and destruction, making it much easier to control. Luo Feng then returned to the Star Tower and began organizing the enormous collection of low-level primordial life materials he had purchased. His collection included 800 late-stage Divine Emperor specimens costing an average of 38.000 primordial crystals each, covering roughly 70% of all suitable species within the 9 Rivers Sacred Realm. He had also acquired 80 Divine Emperor Perfection specimens at an average cost of nearly 390.000 primordial crystals each, along with 3 incredibly rare super limit level specimens for a total of 10.2 million primordial crystals. These super limit level corpses usually came from the far more dangerous Dark Sacred Realm, where battles against extremely powerful primordial life forms were more common. Even a small fragment of such a corpse was worth millions of primordial crystals because these beings were stronger than ordinary divine emperor perfection creatures and could rival even the strongest hall masters of Yulan City. Besides the life materials, Luo Feng also purchased numerous auxiliary cultivation treasures to maximize his progress. His goal was clear: to achieve a breakthrough in the life and death Tao. Activating the Eye of Life and Death on his forehead, he meticulously analyzed every specimen. Instead of studying random materials, he compared complete evolutionary progressions within the same species, from early stage Divine Emperor through mid-stage, late stage, and finally Divine Emperor Perfection. This systematic comparison allowed him to understand how the principles of life and destruction evolved at every level. Although he had not even finished examining 70% of his collection, the process itself gradually completed the missing pieces of his comprehension. Nearly 200 eras passed while Luo Feng remained in uninterrupted seclusion. As he habitually analyzed, integrated, and refined countless insights, a complete early-stage Divine Emperor life and death Tao naturally formed within his heart without deliberate effort. At first, Luo Feng was momentarily stunned, but that surprise quickly transformed into immense joy. Like countless cultivators who risked their lives exploring the Nine Rivers sacred realm in pursuit of higher Tao, Luo Feng experienced the incomparable satisfaction of genuine enlightenment. After spending approximately 900 eras since arriving at Yulan City, his life and death Tao had finally advanced from the ultimate realm of the God King to the early-stage Divine Emperor realm, marking one of the most significant breakthroughs in his cultivation journey. After reaching the early-stage Divine Emperor in the life and death Tao, Luo Feng tested his new power within the Nine Rivers sacred realm. By simply activating the life and death Tao domain, he created an enormous field governed by the laws of life and death. Any ultimate realm godly king entering it would be instantly destroyed. Even a casual attack surpassed the full strength he possessed before entering seclusion. He concluded that his current life and death Tao was already comparable to the level of an ordinary late-stage Divine Emperor Enlightened One, thanks to its perfect fusion of the life and destruction paths. Satisfied with his breakthrough, Luo Feng continued cultivating instead of leaving seclusion. Having accumulated vast knowledge by studying countless low-level primordial lifeforms with the Eye of Life and Death, he carefully refined his understanding rather than rushing forward. He believed cultivation should always be steady, since taking the wrong path could have disastrous consequences. Around 90 eras later, his life Tao naturally advanced to the middle stage Divine Emperor. 60 eras afterward, his destruction Tao also reached the same level. However, he realized merging these two stronger paths into the middle stage life and death Tao would be extraordinarily difficult, as true fusion of different Taos was extremely rare. After several unsuccessful attempts, he temporarily shifted his focus to improving his secret techniques instead. Luo Feng completely reconstructed the undying blood sea body. With his improved understanding of the Star Tower's blood-colored scale and the undying heart, the new version became far more refined than before. The endless blood sea embodied endless vitality inspired by the Star Tower's scale, while his body gained some of the undying heart's profound mysteries. This convinced Luo Feng that creating techniques through his own understanding was far superior to inheriting the methods of predecessors, since only self-created techniques could be fully comprehended and continuously improved. He also upgraded the biomimetic Eye of Life and Death and created several combat techniques designed to maximize the advantages of his new body. After completing his cultivation, Luo Feng returned to Huyang City and finally removed the gigantic innate secret treasure that had been supporting the city. The treasure transformed into a massive furry claw that merged with his right hand, granting terrifying offensive power capable of tearing apart enemies or trapping them. Confident in his current strength, he decided he was now qualified to bring treasures like the Undying Heart and the innate secret treasure Palm World out of the Source World. Though priceless items like the Star Tower and Eye of Life and Death still had to remain hidden there. With the giant claw removed, the 5 mountain ranges supporting Huyang City disappeared, shocking the city's residents. Luo Feng then replaced the old defensive formation with a new life and death array centered around his array map secret treasure. Drawing on the natural circulation of heaven and earth energy, the formation easily reached the maximum power allowed within the land of origin. He instructed Morosa to continue managing Huyang City as before receiving several important visitors. Sensing the disappearance of the innate secret treasure, primogenitor Yan Feng, Thunder Ancestor, Time-Space Demon, Two Realms Palace Master, and Wanfa Tower Master all came to Huyang City. Luo Feng welcomed them warmly with wine and fruit. The 5 powerful experts immediately guessed that he intended to take the innate secret treasure outside the source world and warned him that such a priceless treasure would attract stronger cultivators capable of stealing it. They believed Luo Feng had cultivated for too short a time and lacked the strength to protect it. Hearing their concerns, Luo Feng simply smiled to himself, knowing that after his recent breakthroughs, he was no longer the weakest among the 6 supreme experts gathered there. Luo Feng hosted the 5 elders of Yulan City, Time-Space Demon, Wanfa Tower Master, Thunder Ancestor, primogenitor Yan Feng, and another elder, who all wanted to purchase his innate secret treasure. Although they promised to bid fairly and reminded him that they had accumulated enormous wealth over countless years, Luo Feng firmly refused to sell it, explaining that the treasure held special significance for him. They then tried to buy one of the 2 world-level primordial life materials he had obtained, a dark golden horn and a piece of black bone, arguing that selling one would greatly ease his cultivation. Luo Feng rejected every offer, choosing to keep both treasures despite their immense value. The elders could only hope that one day he might need resources and contact them for a trade. After the gathering ended, Luo Feng secretly carried the Undying Heart and Palm World to Ice Valley before teleporting to the 9 Rivers Sacred Realm. Instead of waiting for the official flying boat, he traveled alone aboard the Waterdrop flying boat he had previously acquired from Time-Space Demon. Although he realized the boat had been sold to him at a considerable loss, he appreciated the favor and even considered repaying Time-Space Demon in the future. While the boat excelled at concealing life aura, Luo Feng found its overall performance mediocre. By combining it with his biomimetic Eye of Destruction, he greatly improved its concealment ability. But he still decided to replace it with a superior vessel once he returned to Yulan City. During the 12-day journey, Luo Feng detected 39 low-level primordial lifeforms thanks to his greatly enhanced perception. However, he deliberately avoided attacking any of them because they were outside the designated hunting zones. He fully understood that cultivators could only hunt safely around the 35 cities. And countless experts had already died after venturing too far into primordial life territories. After arriving in Yulan City, Luo Feng visited a major trading business where the owner personally welcomed him. His recent victory over the Deceit Workshop, in which he and Emperor Qing defeated a 5-man team and killed Kumo Divine Emperor, had made him famous throughout the city, placing him among the top 2,000 divine emperors in Yulan City. Luo Feng remained calm, saying he disliked killing but had no choice when others sought his death. Luo Feng purchased 2 powerful treasures, the half-primordial level Xuanqing Sky Annihilation Array Map and the Void Netherworld Pupil Ship. After negotiating the price down from 8.5 million primordial crystals plus the cost of the flying ship, he successfully bought both treasures for a total of 10 million primordial crystals. Spending nearly all of his remaining wealth, the Xuanqing Sky Annihilation Array would significantly strengthen his endless Blood Sea domain, while the Void Netherworld Pupil Ship, containing the mysteries of life and destruction, perfectly matched his biomimetic Eye of Destruction and greatly improved his mobility. Later, Luo Feng contacted Emperor Qing, who immediately ended his seclusion to meet him. Luo Feng confidently declared that he was now ready to face Elder Tianhe, the deputy workshop master of the Deceit Workshop. When Emperor Qing realized what this meant, he was shocked, understanding that Luo Feng had already reached the combat level of a late-stage Divine Emperor Enlightened expert. Luo Feng explained that he had made major breakthroughs during only 360 epochs of seclusion. Combined with his mastery of both the life and destruction Daos, along with the Undying Heart and Palm World, he now possessed complete confidence against Elder Tianhe. Emperor Qing was deeply amazed by Luo Feng's unprecedented talent and growth, acknowledging that he had personally witnessed the rise of one of the greatest geniuses across countless worlds. With his confidence restored, Emperor Qing immediately agreed to join Luo Feng on another hunting expedition.